Chapter 30:10. Family G Master, you're right. It's indeed the Family G. The real young master is back. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others appeared outside the Family G. Behind them was a string of family Nangong elites. Chu Tianyi was injured earlier, so Luo Qingtong didn't let him come with them. Although he had a special body constitution, the Yin Demon King wasn't a human. Luo Qingtong considered that its demonic aura was extremely harmful to humans, and it wouldn't be good if Chu Tianyi's body was implanted with hidden dangers. Therefore, she let him stay in the Family G's courtyard to recuperate, and let Yan Nyang stay there to accompany him. Although Yan Nyang was a little worried, she thought that there were people from the Nangong family. If they weren't so stupid, they wouldn't attack Luo Qingtong. After all, she and Chu Tianyi were still here, and they could deal with the family Nangong people at any time. With that thought in mind, she immediately agreed to it. Therefore, at this moment, only Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the family Nangong people appeared in the Family G. Ji Yuankuan was originally shocked when he heard Luo Qingtong's voice, but when he saw her, Ji Feiyu, and the family Nangong people coming over, he instantly clenched his teeth. B*TCH, what did you do to my son? Ji Yuankuan's face was filled with rage. He looked at Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others, who should have died without a burial place, and his heart sank. Like Ji fighting, he already thought that the Yin Demon King had failed and was even killed by Luo Qingtong and the others. And when he saw that Chu Tianyi and Yan Nyang were no longer by Luo Qingtong's side, he was even more certain of this fact in his heart. Damn it, that B*TCH's bodyguard could actually withstand that lord's attack? Ji Yuankuan's heart refused to believe this fact, but it was a foregone conclusion. Otherwise, how could Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu appear here? They were lucky that only a bodyguard and a maidservant died. This B*TCH. Ji Yuankuan thought that Chu Tianyi and Yan Nyang were dead. He looked at Luo Qingtong with resentment and gloominess. He thought of Ji fighting, who had brought people to the Ji family's side courtyard to collect the corpse. He already knew that the other party was doomed. Damn it, he shouldn't have agreed to Feiyu's request at that time. Who knew that the B*TCH's bodyguard was so powerful? And when Ji Yuankuan's voice sounded, Luo Qingtong's voice was leisurely. The head of the Family G really cares about your son. Unfortunately, the people around me were too heavy-handed. His body has already turned into ashes. I can't bring him to you. But I asked people to collect some pieces of flesh and clothes he dropped, as well as his jewelry. Please kindly accept them. As she said this, someone immediately sent a brocade box to Ji Yuankuan. The latter opened it, only to see broken clothes and flesh lying inside, and a jade pendant that Ji fighting always carried with him. B*TCH. Ji Yuankuan's face was filled with rage. He looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong, and his eyes almost popped out of his head. This B*TCH actually killed his son. How dare she? How dare she? Ji Yuankuan's face was filled with rage, and Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She looked at him and said coldly, the head of the Family G seems to be dissatisfied with what you see. Chapter 30:11. Luo Qingtong sneered. She had never been a person who was willing to suffer a loss. Speaking of which, Ji Yuankuan should really thank Ji fighting for turning his body into ashes. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong would definitely get someone to tie his corpse up, just like what Ji fighting and Ji Yuankuan wanted to do to her, Ji Feiyu, and the rest. They would parade his corpse through the streets. It was already merciful of her to only throw some minced meat and tattered clothes to him. He still dared to scold her. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She looked at Ji Yuankuan and laughed softly. It seems that the head of Family G thinks that I'm not kind enough for not giving you a taste of your own medicine, right? It's fine. Luo Qingtong's lips curled into an incomparably evil and charming smile as she said to Ji Yuankuan, when you die later, I'll satisfy your request. Chu Tianyi wasn't here right now, so she didn't have to worry about him not holding back. She would personally take care of this old man later. She would let the other party know that she wasn't someone to be trifled with. He actually dared to let the Demon King kill her. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. When her voice rang out, Ji Yuankuan's voice also exploded as he shouted angrily at her, "Shut up! Do you really think that I can't do anything to you today? You brought the people of family Nangong here. Do you think that you can deal with me like this?" Ji Yuankuan's eyes were cold as he swept his gaze over the family Nangong behind Luo Qingtong. He sneered, "The family Nangong used to be a dog under my son's hands. It was so stupid that it was ridiculous. Now it's under your hands. What, do you want to take revenge on me? With just you?" When his words came out, the people of family Nangong were about to go crazy with anger. Ji fighting had harmed Nangong Yenyu, and in the end, deceived the people of the Nangong family like fools. This was a thorn in their hearts, and they had yet to find Ji Yuankuan and Ji fighting to settle the score. He was actually mocking them. The head of family Nangong was furious as he looked at Ji Yuankuan and sneered, "So what if we're willing to be a dog under Miss Shaoqi? It's better than you deceiving, cheating, and robbing. The way you and your father do things is disgusting. Look at you, instead of being ashamed, you're proud of it. You want to drive a wedge between us and Miss Shaoqi?" When the head of family Nangong's words, Ji Yuankuan's face was also furious. He did want to drive a wedge between the Nangong family and Luo Qingtong, but they didn't fall for it. "Bitch!" He looked at Luo Qingtong fiercely, his face full of killing intent. The head of family Nangong's words were very clear. The reason why he helped Ji Feiyu and the others was not for anything else, but because of Luo Shaoqi. This bitch. Ever since she hooked up with Ji Feiyu, they had been having a bad year. Otherwise, they wouldn't have ended up like this. Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuansheng, father and son, were no match for them. Not to mention the family Nangong and the other families. They wouldn't have found out what they had done in secret, and there wouldn't have been betrayal and family Ji's forced abdication. At that time, he would still be the head of the family Ji. So what if he did something disgraceful to Ji Feiyu and his father? Who dared to say anything bad about him? However, it was this bitch. It was her. Chapter 30:12. Because she had exposed them to the public and caused them to lose their reputation and become the enemy of all the families, the family Ji behind them demanded that they abdicate and return the power and position of the family head. Now, even his son had died in the hands of the other party. As for that lord, Ji Yuankuan didn't know what had happened to him. But obviously, the appearance of Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others here meant that the lord's operation had failed. It was possible that he had escaped with serious injuries, or Ji Yuankuan didn't dare to think further. In short, he had nothing left. He was just a stray dog that was about to meet its end. And all of this was thanks to Luo Shaoqi. When Ji Yuankuan thought of this, he couldn't hold it in any longer. With a boom, he instantly charged toward Luo Qingtong. At the same time, he shouted sternly at this moment. "Activate the blood sacrifice array immediately. I want them dead." Ji Yuankuan's expression was ferocious. If he couldn't have it, no one else could either. And Luo Qingtong and the others must die. They wanted to kill him, but they didn't have the strength to do so. Ji Yuankuan sneered in his heart. This blood sacrifice array was prepared for that lord. But now, the other party was no longer here. It was very likely that he was already dead. Under such circumstances, the power of the blood sacrifice array could only be used by him. Although he couldn't completely absorb and transform the power of the blood sacrifice array because he didn't have the Demon King's unique method, as long as he could obtain a small portion, it would be enough for him to kill Luo Qingtong and the others here. The other party actually dared to come to his door with great fanfare to deal with him. He was simply courting death. As Ji Yuankuan sneered in his heart, the blood sacrifice array was activated. Rumble. Blood-colored lines flew across the sky. The blood sacrifice array, which was engraved and drawn on the basis of the Demon King's unique demonic technique, was activated at Ji Yuankuan's command. In an instant, the people from the family Ji were bound by the blood-colored lines that filled the sky. Their faces were filled with terror as they screamed and struggled with all their might, trying to break free from the binding of these blood-colored lines. However, they had already been drugged by Ji Yuankuan. Now that they were lying in the blood sacrifice array, they couldn't move at all. The power of those blood-colored lines would not give them a chance to escape. They screamed with all their might, begging Ji Yuankuan to let them go with tears streaming down their faces. They were willing to submit to Ji Yuankuan and swear to heaven and earth that they would be loyal to Ji Yuankuan and help him deal with Luo Qingtong and the others. However, at this moment, Ji Yuankuan was already surrounded by family Nangong. So what if they pledged their loyalty to him? Weren't they still doomed? However, it would be different if they were sacrificed. If Ji Yuankuan could obtain a certain level of strength, he would definitely be able to leave calmly after killing Luo Qingtong and the others. Without the Demon King's unique technique, he would definitely suffer a backlash from absorbing the power of the blood sacrifice array. However, Ji Yuankuan couldn't care less at this moment. It's too late for you to beg me for mercy now. Just wait for your deaths. Also, Luo Xiaoqi, you slut, die. Ji Yuankuan's expression was ferocious as he ignored the pleas of the family Ji. Instead, he focused on killing Luo Qingtong. Chapter 30:13. When his figure attacked, the family Nangong members' expressions were abnormally ugly and horrified. Ji Yuankuan was actually so deranged. These people from the family Ji were all his blood relatives. He actually wanted to sacrifice all of them. No one would have thought that Ji Yuankuan had gathered the family Ji members back with this idea. Therefore, it was already too late to stop him now. The blood sacrifice array was activated. The life force and strength of the family Ji members were instantly drawn into Ji Yuankuan in an endless stream. Originally, this strength would be transferred to the Demon King after circulating in his body. But now, the Demon King was dead. Therefore, all of this strength remained in Ji Yuankuan's body. Although he could only use a portion of it. Just this portion of strength was enough to allow his strength to skyrocket in a short period of time. In an instant, his strength was close to the early stage of the human martial arts realm. Moreover, this strength was still skyrocketing. Ha ha ha. Luo Xiaoqi, Ji Feiyu, and all of you from the family Nangong will die here today. Ji Yuankuan's voice was incomparably hearty as he laughed heartily. His laughter was proud and ruthless. He directly attacked Luo Qingtong. Halfway through, the family Nangong members wanted to stop him, but they were all sent flying. They were no match for Ji Yuankuan, whose strength had skyrocketed at this moment. Seeing this attack coming, Ji Feiyu and the others immediately panicked. Suiyu and the others disregarded everything and rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Xiaoqi. Ji Feiyu's eyes were red. He directly rushed in front of Suiyu and the others and blocked in front of Luo Qingtong, intending to use his body to block this attack. At this moment, he secretly hated the fact that his strength was recovering too slowly. Luo Qingtong said that he had a perfected Xiantian body and was the favorite of cultivation. In the future, his strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. But why couldn't he feel how fast his strength was increasing? What Xiantian peak? What Xiantian darling? If his aptitude and potential were really so powerful, why couldn't he improve his strength even faster? Why couldn't he improve all the things that he hadn't been able to cultivate for decades? In this way, he wouldn't need to stand beside Luo Qingtong and watch her face those dangers without being able to do anything. Take little seven away. Let's go. He abruptly flicked his sleeves, chasing Suiyu and the others to the back. Chu Tianyi and the others were in the family Ji's courtyard. As long as they brought Luo Qingtong there, the other party might be able to deal with Ji Yuankuan. This was his only chance, and for this chance, Ji Feiyu was willing to exchange his life for it. Let's go. He shouted angrily, and directly mobilized the power in his body, intending to self-destruct. There was no other way. He had just started cultivating. In terms of strength, it was impossible for him to block Ji Yuankuan's attack, let alone stop the other party from chasing Luo Qingtong. Only by self-destructing could he fight for a chance for Luo Qingtong and the others. He didn't hesitate to self-destruct. At this moment, a voice sighed behind him. "No need, I'm not that weak." Chapter 30:14. Luo Qingtong was looking at the huge blood sacrifice array just now. Luo Qingtong sensed it when the array was just activated. But at this moment, the power of her blood eyes had not fully recovered, so she could not see through the layout and weaknesses of the array at a glance, so it took a little more time. Now she looked up and saw Ji Feiyu and the others blocking her side, and Ji Feiyu was ready to explode himself and let Sueyu and the others take her away. She felt a little warm in her heart and said to Ji Feiyu, "Didn't you say before that you thought your strength was growing too slowly?" Her face was indifferent, and the smile on her lips was indescribably light and pleasant. She did not take Ji Yuankuan's attack seriously at all. She just smiled softly and said, "In this case, I'll help you get back everything you lost before. Give me your and uncle's blood." Luo Qingtong said to Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuancheng. Ji Feiyu was already red-eyed with anxiety. He looked at Luo Qingtong and said anxiously, "Little Seven, don't be stubborn anymore. Ji Yuankuan's strength has already risen to the early stage of the human martial arts realm. No one knew that his strength could rise to such an extent. Take it that I'm begging you, okay? Hurry up and leave here. This is really not the time to be stubborn. I'm very happy that you're willing to help me. But at this moment, if you delay like this and his strength rises again, even if you return to the family Ji's residence, you won't be able to leave here again. Little Seven, hurry up and leave. I'm indebted to you, but I guess I can't repay you. Let me send you on your way." Before he finished speaking, Luo Qingtong had already made a clean cut on his wrist and took a drop of blood. Then she made a cut on Ji Yuancheng's hand and took a drop of blood as well. She said helplessly, "I thought that if you did it yourself, you would bleed less. But now it seems that I'll do it myself. Stop the bleeding." As she spoke, she suddenly rose into the air and slashed out with the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand with a loud boom. With a boom, Luo Qingtong's strength instantly rose to the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm, nearing the human martial realm. Her sword strike was clearly extremely ordinary. It was an extremely ordinary sword strike, but in an instant, it shattered Ji Yuankuan's attack into pieces. The smile on Luo Qingtong's lips was awe-inspiring, like the red spider lily blooming on the other shore, enchanting and evil. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she said to Ji Yuankuan, "Old dog, I didn't expect you to have such a move. Since that's the case, I'll use you to raise my strength today." As Luo Qingtong spoke, she immediately raised her hand and slashed at Ji Yuankuan. She had already reached the bottleneck of the human martial realm. Because of Ji Feiyu's large amount of experience and explanations, she already had a deep understanding of the strength of the venerable realm. In addition, she had forcefully suppressed her strength because of the loss of her strength. Luo Qingtong's foundation was now incomparably solid. She didn't have to worry about her foundation being unstable and affecting her advancement. At this moment, she was going to use Ji Yuankuan as a whetstone to sharpen herself into the human martial realm that she was about to break through. Boom! The life and death yin-yang sword in Luo Qingtong's hand seemed to weigh 1,000 catties. The sword light from her hand spanned across the wilderness and the stars in the sky. It was like the Milky Way had descended from the sky. Chapter 30:15. The smug smile on the latter's face had not disappeared. He was still immersed in the joy of Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others dying in his hands. He did not expect Luo Qingtong's strength to rise to the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm in an instant. This was the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm. Not the 9th level of the Holy Venerable Realm. Not to mention, even the 9th level of the Holy Venerable Realm could not reach it in an instant. This meant that, you hid your strength? You bitch. Ji Yuankuan gritted his teeth. He looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. He could not believe that she had hidden her strength for so long. Ninth level of the Purple Venerable Realm. She was actually at the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm, and he did not know at all. How could he know that Luo Qingtong's strength was not present when she used Tuanzi's strength previously? Under such circumstances, as long as she did not recover her strength, no one would know her true strength, let alone Ji Yuankuan. He was only at the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm previously. As long as Luo Qingtong was willing, even if she did not lose her strength because of Tuanzi, her strength would not be discovered by Ji Yuankuan. Who do you think you are? Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she looked down from above. She looked at Ji Yuankuan and said with a chuckle, "You want to see through my strength with just you?" The moment her words left her mouth, Ji Yuankuan was instantly humiliated by her to the point that his eyes almost split open. "Bitch, you bitch." Before he could speak, he was interrupted by Luo Qingtong. "You only say 1 or 2 sentences every day. Other than this, what else can you scold? I'm a bitch? I wonder what you are when you're even worse than a bitch." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She could not be bothered to argue with him. In fact, she did not even care when these people were scolding her. Would an elephant care about what an ant under its feet scolded it? No, it would not. It would only step over without a care and trample the ant who was scolding it into a pile of bones. To Luo Qingtong, Ji Yuankuan and the others were that ant. What she needed to do was to crush them and not scold them back. Boom! The sword light in Luo Qingtong's hand slashed fiercely on Ji Yuankuan's body, forcing him to swallow the curses that he was about to hurriedly. Her gaze was ice cold as she slashed her sword light. After Ji Yuankuan's sword, he finally knew how powerful Luo Qingtong was. Luo Qingtong's attack. He looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. His strength was already at the initial stage of the human martial realm, but Luo Qingtong's strength was clearly at the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm, yet she was still suppressing him. That blow just now, he couldn't avoid it at all. If it were not for the fact that he was within the range of the blood sacrifice array and had an endless stream of vitality and strength to block for him and offset the damage from Luo Qingtong's attack, he would have already died under Luo Qingtong's sword. How could she be so strong? How could she be so strong? Ji Yuankuan was shocked. He thought that it would be easy for him to kill Luo Qingtong since she was no longer protected by that human martial realm guard. He did not expect that Luo Qingtong's strength would completely crush him. Fortunately, he still had the power of the blood sacrifice. When his strength increased by another level, he would definitely kill Luo Qingtong. His expression was ferocious. Chapter 30:16. Oh my God. Little Seven is actually. Sueyu's eyes were filled with shock, and she couldn't help but raise her hand to cover her mouth. She raised her head to look at the young lady who was like a queen in the air, and her face was filled with indescribable shock and horror. On the other hand, Ji Feiyu's expression was extremely complicated. He looked at the young lady who was standing in the air and didn't say anything in the end. The power of the 9th level Purple Venerable Realm, the other party's strength was far more powerful than he had imagined. Ji Feiyu's heart dimmed. When Luo Qingtong was still at the Sage Master Realm, he already felt that he might not be able to catch up to her. Now that she was at the 9th level Purple Venerable Realm, he didn't have any more thoughts. The young lady's brilliance was too dazzling. How fortunate was he to be able to meet her? The family Nangong's leader and the others were extremely happy. As expected, this Miss Little Seven is that young Master Little Seven. The family Nangong's leader was pleasantly surprised. He looked at the domineering young lady in the sky and felt an indescribable sense of self-satisfaction. He had indeed made the right bet. As the lover of the master of the underworld, how could she only have this little strength? Not to mention that Luo Qingtong's matter had already spread throughout the Tianfeng region and even the Feixing region. Now, everyone in the 6-star region and above probably knew her name. It was a once-in-a-lifetime good thing that they could rely on her. He was pleasantly surprised, and the other family Nangong were also shocked. They didn't expect Luo Qingtong's strength to be at the 9th level Purple Venerable Realm. Even if she wasn't a young lady from the 9-star region, she shouldn't have such terrifying strength, right? Not to mention that she could hack Ji Yuankun to the point where he couldn't block it. Everyone could see that if it wasn't for the support of the blood sacrifice array, Ji Yuankun probably wouldn't have been able to block Luo Qingtong's sword. What kind of concept was this? Luo Qingtong is obviously only at the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm, but she has the strength of an early-stage human martial realm martial artist. Oh my god. Just as everyone was shocked, Ji Yuankun's expression was extremely arrogant. Humph, Luo Shaoqi, your strength is indeed extraordinary. But so what? Can you kill me? Ji Yuankun laughed out loud. He stood in the air above the training ground of the family Ji. He spread his arms and sensed the life force and strength of the family Ji members around him. He laughed and said, "When all of their strength is poured into my body, I will kill you." His voice was filled with hostility. Luo Qingtong looked at him, raised her eyebrows slightly and said, "So why do you think I've been talking nonsense with you and waiting for you to hit me? You want to rely on this formation to obtain supreme power? It's a pity that the master behind you is dead. Do you think you can defeat me with this array?" Luo Qingtong sneered. If this array was activated by the Yin Demon King himself and increased his strength, maybe she would be a little afraid. But who was Ji Yuankun? If Chu Tianyi hadn't been injured by the Yin Demon King and didn't come, Ji Yuankun would have died. Now, Ji Yuankun would have been a corpse. Luo Qingtong sneered, then raised her hand and flicked the 2 drops of blood into the array. Now you know what Ji Feiyu and the others suffered before, right? Chapter 30:17. The former direct descendants of the family Ji Feiyu and his father, were drained of their life and strength because of Ji Yuankun's conspiracy. You felt that their strength was not enough to support the family Ji, so you abandoned them like they were worn-out shoes. You didn't care how much they had contributed to the family Ji. Without their contributions, how could you have your current status? You've grown and improved, but you abandoned them in the blink of an eye. How does this pain feel? Ji Feiyu and his father have been through it for more than 20 years. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. She hated betrayers the most in her life, no matter what kind of betrayal it was. The family Ji's people abandoned Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing like worn-out shoes and wantonly humiliated them. In her opinion, this was betrayal. These people's wings had hardened, and their personalities had hardened. They didn't need Ji Feiyu and the others anymore, so they kicked them away. When Luo Qingtong thought of this, she sneered and said, "So many direct descendants of the family Ji had problems at the same time. They couldn't improve their strength anymore and could only wander around the Holy Venerate realm for the rest of their lives. Did you really not have any suspicions?" "No, you did. But if the direct descendants of the family Ji stepped down, there were too many benefits for you. So you turned a blind eye and pretended to be blind in the dark. Is that so? In fact, if Ji Feiyu wasn't still the trash you thought he was, you wouldn't have taken the opportunity to seize Ji Yuankun's power. Everything you do is for yourselves." When Luo Qingtong said this, Ji Yuanqing and Ji Feiyu widened their eyes. They looked at the people of the family Ji in disbelief. They saw that the elders of the family Ji, who were wailing in the blood sacrifice array, didn't dare to raise their heads to look at them. "So, you know everything." Ji Yuanqing's voice trembled. Compared to Ji Feiyu, he was the one who couldn't take it the most. No one knew how much he had despaired in private because he had not been able to raise the family Ji and meet the expectations of the family Ji. He felt that he had not taken up the responsibility of being a direct descendant of the family Ji. Therefore, for all these years, no matter how unscrupulous and humiliating his clansmen were, he never opened his mouth to defend himself. But now, these people were doing it on purpose. They didn't know that there was a hidden reason behind the decline of the family Ji's direct line of descent, but they never mentioned it. He even came with Ji Yuankun and the others to humiliate them. Ji Yuanqing didn't know why he had been so obsessed, desperate, and guilty all these years. They were not the only direct descendant of the family Ji. It was just that their family was the main bloodline. Over the years, most of the family Ji's direct descendants had withered away. Those people all left with regret and guilt. These people, these scoundrels, how dare they? Ji Yuanqing's eyes were red. If it weren't for the fact that the family Ji's people were in the blood sacrifice array, he would have pounced on them and torn them apart alive. When Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, the family Ji's people didn't expect her to say what they had once harbored so easily. Everyone looked at Ji Yuanqing's blood-red eyes and couldn't say a word. Ji Yuankuan was also shocked by Luo Qingtong's words. It wasn't because of the thoughts the family Ji's people had once harbored. He had known about those for a long time, but he had never exposed them. Otherwise, why would he abandon these family Ji's people so easily? However, Luo Qingtong's words seemed to have a hidden meaning. Ji Yuankuan's heart was alarmed. He had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. When he thought about how the Yin Demon King had really died in Luo Qingtong's hands, his heart skipped a beat. Chapter 30:18. Boom! There was a sudden explosion in the formation. That explosion came from the place where Luo Qingtong had flicked the 2 drops of blood to. When Ji Yuankuan heard this explosion, the uneasiness in his heart grew even stronger. He looked in Luo Qingtong's direction and shouted sternly, "Bitch, what did you do in this blood sacrifice array?" His heart was thumping wildly. He kept comforting himself that Luo Qingtong couldn't possibly do anything in this blood sacrifice array. This blood sacrifice array was given to him by the Yin Demon King. Ji Yuankuan himself didn't know where that lord came from. But he clearly understood that the thing that the other party gave him wasn't something that an ordinary person could decipher. Or rather, he couldn't even touch it. Luo Qingtong couldn't possibly do anything in this blood sacrifice array. However, just as he thought this, he heard Luo Qingtong say with a chuckle, "Your senses are sharp, but it's a pity that you only realized it now. It's already too late." As Luo Qingtong said this, the curve of her lips suddenly lifted. Then, in front of Ji Yuankuan, she raised her hand and made a seal. She pointed in the direction of the blood sacrifice array and said, "Reverse the flow of the blood sacrifice array, change master." As her voice rang out, Ji Yuankuan instantly felt the power of the blood sacrifice array that was originally enveloping him move away from his body and disappear. He was shocked and stood rooted to the ground. His face was filled with hysteria and disbelief. "No! No! This is impossible!" he shouted angrily. "How can the power of the blood sacrifice array disappear from my body? I'm the main body of this blood sacrifice array. I'm the carrier that Lord wants to seize their power." Ji Yuankuan's mind was completely blank. This blood sacrifice array was forged by the Yin Demon King according to his bloodline connection with the family Ji. It wouldn't stop until it had sucked all the family Ji's life force and power dry. Even the Yin Demon King himself was the same. However, the power of the blood sacrifice array formation had disappeared from his body. What was going on? While his face was filled with shock and disbelief, Luo Qingtong's faint voice sounded. "This blood sacrifice array formation is indeed built with you as the main body and the bloodline connection between you and the family Ji. Once it's activated, it's impossible to stop. But you've forgotten that you're not the only one here who is related to the family Ji. And, you're not the only one who has some sort of connection with the Lord behind you." Luo Qingtong smiled and looked at Ji Yuankuan. "Do you need me to remind you? Back then, how did you snatch the talent, strength, and vitality from Ji Feiyu and his father?" When Luo Qingtong said this, Ji Yuankuan felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He looked at Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing, who were beside Luo Qingtong. His throat was so dry that he couldn't say anything. How could he forget? He was the one who made the Yin Demon King cast the soul blood curse on Ji Feiyu and his father, causing their strength to decline and their vitality to lose. He even transferred their talent and strength to him and Ji fighting. Under these circumstances, Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing naturally had a special connection with the Yin Demon King. Chapter 30:19. Ah! Just as Ji Yuankuan's voice broke down and he screamed, Luo Qingtong suddenly raised her hand. Then, Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing were instantly enveloped in an extremely vast and majestic light that was full of vitality and power. It was the power transferred by the blood sacrifice array. This power had previously enveloped Ji Yuankuan. Now, Luo Qingtong snatched it away and enveloped Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing. When Luo Qingtong enveloped them with this power, Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's faces were filled with surprise and joy. They looked at Luo Qingtong and didn't know what to say. This was especially true for Ji Feiyu. His eyes were red and moist. Countless emotions were entangled within them, causing him to be unable to say anything. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She just smiled at them and said, "All right, decades of humiliation and oppression have been washed away in one day. Feiyu, uncle, this is what you deserve. You should have gotten the power and life that belonged to you more than 20 years ago." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. When she snatched control of the blood sacrifice array from Ji Yuankuan, she had already changed the authority and power of this array. As long as Ji Feiyu and the others were unwilling, the family Ji and the others could still keep their lives. They wouldn't end up as dried corpses like before when they were absorbed by Ji Yuankuan. However, it was only limited to keeping their lives. Most of their vitality and power would become Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's. There would be drawbacks when Ji Yuankuan absorbed the power of this array, and he wouldn't even be able to use it completely. However, this wasn't difficult for Luo Qingtong. She just needed to slightly improve the flaws of this array. The reason why she didn't move and let Ji Yuankuan be arrogant was because she was thinking about this matter. Now that the matter was settled, she could deal with Ji Yuankuan with peace of mind. As for the rest of the family Ji's matter, let Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing settle it. Luo Qingtong wasn't prepared to participate. Old dog. Luo Qingtong licked her lips and looked at Ji Yuankuan. Her eyes were evil, enchanting, and domineering as she said, "It's your turn now." She said that she would use Ji Yuankuan as a whetstone. This was definitely not a joke. As for Ji Yuankuan, he became timid when he lost the power of the blood sacrifice array. He looked at the enchanting and wanton girl opposite him, who was like a demon or a demon, and his heart couldn't help but tremble. His previous lofty aspirations and arrogance had all disappeared. His current strength had vaguely reached the 5th level of the human martial realm. Was close to the 6th level. But for some reason, when he met Luo Qingtong's gaze, he still did not have much confidence. This woman was too terrifying. Ji Yuankuan didn't know how to describe her. He had sent people to investigate before. Luo Qingtong was indeed from the 9-star region, the Star Desolation region. Moreover, she was Mo Zhuling's enemy. He had also investigated the matter of Ji Feiyu's engagement being broken off. Although he scoffed at the matter of Ji Feiyu being able to cultivate and defeat the people of the Lu family, he felt that it was the result of people spreading false information and adding fuel to the fire. However, he was still very shocked by Luo Qingtong. Chapter 30-20. In Ji Yuankuan's opinion, this should be the work of the human martial arts realm bodyguard who followed her. But to be able to obtain the bodyguard's loyalty, this also proved that Luo Qingtong was not ordinary. But who would have thought that compared to the real Luo Qingtong, these thoughts were not worth mentioning at all? How could the other party be treated differently by the Star Alliance because of the guards around her? Clearly, it was her own tyrannical strength that could not be ignored. It was laughable that he naively thought that this was all there was to her. But now, Luo Qingtong had forced him back with a sword and reversed the power transmission of the blood sacrifice array. How could an ordinary girl from the 9-star region do all these things? Not to mention that she was only from the 9-star region. Even if she was from the 6-star region or the 3-star region, she might not be able to do this, right? She was really too terrifying. How could such a person appear in their 8-star region's Dongting region? Just like the Yin Demon King before, Ji Yuankuan could not understand no matter how hard he tried. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's sword had already slashed over. This time, she wasn't like before, where she simply swung her sword out in an ordinary manner. Instead, she used martial arts. Boom! As Luo Qingtong slashed out with her sword, Ji Yuankuan could only hastily block it. In just an instant, with a boom, he was sent flying by Luo Qingtong's attack. Pfft! He spat out a mouthful of blood. If it wasn't for the remaining life force and energy of the Ji family members in his body, he would have been gravely injured by now. How could she be so strong? How could she be so strong? Ji Yuankuan was about to go crazy. And Luo Qingtong's second move was ready. Heaven-conquering art. Luo Qingtong slashed out again with her sword. She was not afraid that she would kill Ji Yuankuan. He still had the remaining life force and strength of the family Ji in his body. He would not die so easily. And for someone as strong as him who was at the 6th level of the human martial realm, there were very few targets that he could beat without any scruples. How could Luo Qingtong not seize the opportunity and make full use of it? She could feel that the 9th level purple venerated realm power within her body was violently boiling. With every slash of her sword, Ji Yuankuan's blocking and dodging made her feel as if she could advance further at any time. Luo Qingtong's sword slashed out one after another. Her speed was getting faster and faster. She looked at the trajectory of Ji Yuankuan's dodging and parrying. Even without using her blood eyes, the other party's movements became clearer and clearer in front of her. As a result, Ji Yuankuan's final parry became more and more strenuous, more and more unable to resist. Boom! After knocking Ji Yuankuan to the ground and making him spit out blood again, Luo Qingtong's overall strength suddenly rose. Boom! Her entire body's aura was boiling and finally, with a boom, it completely exploded. It was as if all living things were rejuvenated after a long period of silence. After the sudden explosion, the power around Luo Qingtong's body suddenly rose again. It was just that the rising power was no longer the aura of the venerated realm from before. Luo Qingtong's strength had increased. She had just entered the human martial realm. Her strength had increased to the level of the human martial realm. Boom! Chapter 30-21. He looked fearfully at the power of the human martial arts realm that erupted from Luo Qingtong's body. His heart and soul were about to explode. Human martial realm strength. She really used him as a whetstone. He was an expert at the 6th level of the human martial realm. Luo Qingtong, a person at the 9th level of the purple venerable realm, actually used him as a whetstone to increase her strength. Not only that, she really succeeded. If this spread out, no one would believe it at all. How could someone at the 9th level of the purple venerable realm torture him, a person at the 6th level of the human martial realm, like torturing dogs? Ji Yuankuan was still thinking that after his strength increased by another level through the power of the blood sacrifice array, he would kill Luo Qingtong and make her die miserably. As a result, his strength had increased to the 6th level of the human martial realm. However, Luo Qingtong, a person at the 9th level of the purple venerable realm, still tortured him without any discussion. Now that her strength had increased to the human martial realm, and the power of his blood sacrifice array had been taken away by her. Could he still be her opponent? Impossible. No one needed to tell him, Ji Yuankuan could answer this without hesitation. His mind trembled violently, and he could no longer bear the torture of this fact. In the next moment, Luo Qingtong's strength would increase and she would be unable to take care of him for the time being. He got up from the ground abruptly and rushed to his room, rolling and crawling. There was something left behind by the Demon King that might be able to save his life. As he thought of this, he immediately rushed towards that place like a madman. Luo Qingtong's strength had just increased, and when the old and new powers were replaced, there was a moment of instability, so she didn't notice Ji Yuankuan. When she saw him rush into the room, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She looked at the head of the family Nangong and said, "You guys guard this place. Don't let Ji Feiyu and the others have any problems. After this matter is over, I will remember your kindness." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't beat around the bush with the head of the family Nangong and the others. She didn't care why the other party would try their best to help Ji Feiyu and the others, but it was obvious that this matter was directed at her. Because if the people of the family Nangong wanted to help Ji Feiyu, they wouldn't come to see her before making this decision. Therefore, Luo Qingtong guessed that the head of the family Nangong must have come to see her and confirm something, so he did his best to help Ji Feiyu. Luo Qingtong would remember this favor. After this matter was over, if they had any requests, she could agree to them. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the head of the family Nangong was instantly overjoyed. He had indeed come for Luo Qingtong, and was prepared to get close to Luo Qingtong by using his close relationship with Ji Feiyu and the others to establish a relationship with her. Now that Luo Qingtong had said such words, it was obvious that she was willing to accept them. How could he not be overjoyed? As for making requests and conditions, he didn't even think about it. What conditions and requests could be compared to Luo Qingtong's brilliant future? This was the lover of the master of the palace of the underworld, the little seventh young master who was revered and praised by everyone in the Tianfeng region. Oh, no, it should be called little seventh young lady now. Chapter 30-22. Speaking of this, in order to prevent Luo Qingtong from being unhappy about her identity being exposed, he immediately mouthed 3 words to Luo Qingtong, Tianfeng domain. Hearing his words, Luo Qingtong smiled at once. I see. She chuckled. No wonder the family Nangong people were so attentive to Ji Feiyu. It turned out that they had found out her identity. The family Nangong leader was also clever. After knowing her identity, he didn't reveal his identity casually. Instead, he wanted to get close to Ji Feiyu by befriending her. Luo Qingtong didn't reject such a little trick. After all, everyone wanted to climb up the social ladder. Not to mention that the family Nangong people had paid a price to help Ji Feiyu. Why would she reject such an open and above-board way? Luo Qingtong hated those who played tricks on her. They didn't want to do anything but wanted to get benefits from her. Those people simply played others like fools. However, Luo Qingtong was not a fool. If those people offended her, she would torture them until they called her father. On the contrary, the family Nangong leader, who gave people and resources to her and openly used the opportunity to help her, was more in line with her temperament and taste. She looked at the family Nangong leader's uneasy face and said, "It's okay. I know this. I'll keep it in mind." As soon as her words came out, the family Nangong leader's face was overjoyed. Luo Qingtong's words showed that she didn't care about the fact that he used Ji Feiyu's name to get close to her and was ready to accept them. Oh my God! The head of the family Nangong was pleasantly surprised. He quickly patted his chest and promised that he would protect Ji Feiyu and the others. He would not let them come to any harm. Luo Qingtong nodded. She didn't say anything more to him. With a leap, she rushed into Ji Yuankuan's room. As the head of the family, Ji Yuankuan's room and main courtyard were the closest to the martial arts practice field. After all, the family Ji's conference hall was right next to the martial arts practice field. It was where important meetings and decisions were held. He lived nearby so that it would be convenient for him to come and go. However, Luo Qingtong was thinking that this might not be the end of it. It would also be beneficial for him to observe the cultivation of the family Ji disciples and see who was more outstanding. He could then seize the opportunity to steal their life force and strength for himself and the Demon King. Luo Qingtong rushed into the room as she thought of this. There was no one in the huge room. Only the secret mechanism by the wall was activated. It was clear that Ji Yuankuan had forgotten to close the door in his panic. Of course, it was useless even if he closed it. After confirming that he had rushed into the room, even if it wasn't Luo Qingtong, any other expert of the same level would be able to easily tear down the room and discover the secret room. Luo Qingtong's figure didn't stop. She directly rushed into the secret room. She had a feeling that this secret room might have something to do with the Demon King. Otherwise, Ji Yuankuan wouldn't be in such a hurry. It was as if he was grabbing onto his last life-saving straw. It just so happened that the Demon King's background couldn't be compared to others. His identity as a demon also made Luo Qingtong apprehensive. She was originally prepared to carefully investigate after killing Ji Yuankuan. She wanted to see if the Een Demon King was completely dead. Otherwise, if there was any oversight, the Een Demon King would have a chance to escape. That would cause endless trouble. Chapter 30-23. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she immediately rushed forward even faster. At this moment, in the secret room, in the huge underground cave, Ji Yuankuan's figure appeared in front of the huge statue in a panic. Usually, as long as they stepped into this cave, the huge statue would sense it. But this time, he had already rushed to the front of the huge statue, but it didn't react at all. Ji Yuankuan was shocked and broke down. Obviously, what Luo Qingtong said before was all true. That lord, he was afraid that he had really. Ji Yuankuan didn't dare to continue thinking about it. With a panicked expression, he ran to the foot of the statue and circled around it continuously. There must be something. There must be something that can save me. As he muttered these words, he suddenly glanced to the side and caught a glimpse of a place not far from the statue. Instantly, his eyes narrowed. It was a small table with a brocade box on it. Ji Yuankuan remembered that in the past, the Een Demon King had asked them to make a choice and asked if they were willing to be loyal to it and become its most loyal subordinates and soldiers. It could allow them to quickly obtain the power it gave them without any effort. But the prerequisite was that they had to become one of its kind. Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting both refused. They didn't want to give up their human identity. Not to mention, they didn't even know the identity of the Een Demon King and how it became like this. What if they became like it and also faced an extremely bad situation like it? As the two thought of this, they immediately rejected this matter. Because of this, the Een Demon King later asked them to choose people from their family Ji so that it could cast a blood curse and absorb the other party's soul power to recover its vitality. At the same time, it would give its power back to them. After such a long time, Ji Yuankuan had almost forgotten about this matter. But now that he saw this brocade box, he suddenly remembered. Because back then, the Een Demon King had told them that if they changed their minds, they could eat the thing in the brocade box at any time. At that time, it would give them the same power as it. Now that he saw this brocade box, Ji Yuankuan remembered everything. He trembled as he took the brocade box. He tried a few times but couldn't open it. Once he opened this brocade box, he would no longer have any path of retreat. As Ji Yuankuan thought of this, his heart trembled. His hands trembled violently. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared at the entrance of the cave. Seeing Luo Qingtong's figure appear, Ji Yuankuan's body trembled violently. After that, he no longer cared about anything else and opened the brocade box. Without even looking at it, he scooped up the item inside and put it into his mouth. Ah! The moment that thing entered his mouth, Ji Yuankuan's body suddenly trembled violently. Then, he let out an extremely miserable cry. His figure suddenly expanded and shrunk in an instant. It was like a human-shaped plasticine being kneaded by a pair of invisible hands, constantly changing into various shapes. It was really chilling to look at. Chapter 30-24. In the next second, an extremely sharp voice came out of his mouth. Ha ha ha. Idiot, do you really think that anyone can easily obtain my power? As he spoke, Ji Yuankuan's figure instantly turned into the Een Demon King's appearance. Kiki, it feels really good to be able to obtain a body. Little b****, it's all thanks to you this time. I'll treat you well later. I'll definitely make sure you die miserably. Kiki. The Een Demon King's voice laughed sinisterly. It stood on the ground and stretched its limbs and bones. It felt really comfortable. Ha, that idiot Ji Yuankuan. He thought that I took out this thing to make them loyal to me. In reality, the Een Demon King was already prepared to take over their bodies. Unfortunately, Ji Yuankuan and his son were both more cunning and more cautious than the other. The Een Demon King couldn't find a way to do it. Naturally, it could only give up and settle for the next best thing, which was to let them prepare to restore its true body. As for the item that contained his divine consciousness avatar, it was set aside. However, it didn't expect that Ji Yuankuan would eat this thing after being chased by Luo Qingtong to the point where he had nowhere to go. Kiki, this time, his body belonged to it. As the Yin Demon King thought this, it suddenly raised its hand and pulled Ji Yuankuan's soul out of his body. It opened its mouth and swallowed it. Ji Yuankuan's figure kept struggling, but it was completely useless. The Yin Demon King, who had taken control of his body, wasn't something that he could deal with. Furthermore, his soul had already been completely imprisoned by the Yin Demon King. Ji Yuankuan's heart was filled with pain. He didn't expect that he would end up like this. If he hadn't coveted the power that the Yin Demon King gave him back then, would this scene have happened? However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Ji Yuankuan could only be eaten alive by the Yin Demon King with a bellyful of regret and pain. His body screamed as he disappeared into the Yin Demon King's mouth. Only then did the latter have the opportunity to look at Luo Qingtong. She laughed sharply. "Little bitch, are you ready?" Its expression was cruel, and it looked at Luo Qingtong as if it was looking at a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't feel anything when she looked at it. In the eyes of others, the scene of Ji Yuankuan being eaten alive might be extremely impactful and cruel. But in Luo Qingtong's eyes, she didn't feel anything. As a paragon ocular sorcerer in her previous life, she had seen many sinister and cruel methods. The Yin Demon King was just child's play. However, she narrowed her eyes and looked at the Yin Demon King in front of her. The other party had indeed left a backup plan with Ji Yuankuan. Was this the incarnation of a split soul trying to seize another body and be reborn? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. Unfortunately, it had met her. Since the Yin Demon King had already died once before, then this time, she would make sure that it was completely dead. While Luo Qingtong's gaze was indifferent, the Yin Demon King finally became angry out of humiliation. It originally thought that Luo Qingtong would panic. From Ji Yuankuan's memories, it knew that Chu Tianyi didn't come with Luo Qingtong this time. Chapter 30-25. Shouldn't she have shrieked the moment she saw me? Shouldn't she have run away at lightning speed? Or should she have knelt down and begged for mercy? Luo Qingtong's calmness made the Yin Demon King feel an indescribable humiliation. It looked at Luo Qingtong and shouted sternly, "Little slut, the people around you are not by your side. Right now, you are completely alone and helpless. If you kneel down and kowtow to me immediately and beg for mercy, perhaps I will spare your life." Its voice was sinister and cold, and it carried a sense of ridicule and humiliation as if it was waiting to watch a good show. It wanted to see how Luo Qingtong would kneel down and beg for mercy in front of it. It wanted to take revenge for the time when its soul was killed by her at the family Ji courtyard. When it said those words, Luo Qingtong's eyebrows suddenly twitched. Then, she looked at it and chuckled. "You must have said something wrong, right? I should have said that if you kneel down and beg for mercy, perhaps I will leave you with an intact corpse." As Luo Qingtong said this, she smiled sweetly and pointed at herself. It was obvious that she was saying this for the Yin Demon King to hear. The "I" she was referring to was also referring to herself. When the Yin Demon King heard Luo Qingtong's words, it was instantly enraged. "Slut, you're courting death." As it said this, it immediately charged towards Luo Qingtong. She refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Did she still think that it was the same soul that was unable to retaliate after being struck by her earlier? The Yin Demon King's face was filled with rage. Almost instantly, it charged in front of Luo Qingtong. However, Luo Qingtong did not panic when she saw it charging over. She only slashed at it with her sword. Ha ha ha. Originally, when the Yin Demon King saw that Luo Qingtong was so calm, it thought that she had some way to deal with it. In the end, when it saw that she still slashed at it with her sword, it immediately laughed wildly. The cautious feeling in his heart was also swept away. "Huh, is this all you have? Your strength is not bad. You've actually reached the human martial arts realm. Your attack is also very powerful, far surpassing that of an ordinary human martial arts realm expert. However, if Ji Yuankun was here, perhaps he would not be able to block your attack. But the person you're facing now is me. Ha ha ha. The Demon King laughed wildly in its heart, without the slightest trace of worry. This Luo Shaoqi probably thought that she could kill him in one fell swoop just because her strength had improved. Unfortunately, it was not as stupid as Ji Yuankun. As Luo Qingtong's attack, Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong, Luo Qingtong, Qingtong S. Luo tease, how? Haha. The Demon King laughed maniacally and swung his claws at Luo Qingtong. In an instant, its strength actually broke through to the earth martial arts realm. This was done by force. Ji Yuankun's body still had some remaining life force and power from the blood sacrifice. After being forcibly refined by it, it was raised to the level of the early stage of the earth martial arts realm. The Demon King's heart was extremely treacherous. Although he was already very confident that he would win against Luo Qingtong, he was still very confident. However, it was still not at ease. Chapter 30-26. This way, no matter what Luo Qingtong was doing, she would still die without a doubt. However, just as it was thinking this, it saw the corner of Luo Qingtong's lips curl up. Then, she looked at the Demon King and chuckled. I didn't expect us to think of the same thing. If that's the case, when Luo Qingtong said this, the smile on her lips deepened. This time, you won't be able to escape, right? As she said this, the Demon King's expression froze. It looked at Luo Qingtong and its smile froze. What did this woman say? What did she mean by thinking of the same thing? Wait a minute. The Demon King's brain froze. It looked at Luo Qingtong's smile and its brain buzzed, as if it was about to explode. Luo Qingtong was talking about strength? This bitch was also hiding her strength? When it thought of this, the Demon King's eyes widened. At this moment, an extremely strong sense of danger suddenly rang out in its heart. Then, it saw Luo Qingtong retract the sword that was originally slashing towards it. Then, Luo Qingtong clenched her fists and punched towards it. Heaven and Earth Tyrant Fist. Luo Qingtong punched out. In an instant, the entire underground cave shook violently. If not for the fact that this cave was deep underground and was surrounded by soil, it would have been impossible to escape. Luo Qingtong's attack would have caused the ground to shake and the cave to collapse. Luo Qingtong's right hand gripped the hilt of her sword and almost instantly met the Demon King's attack. Boom! The Demon King's attack met Luo Qingtong's fist. The young girl's fist was small, white, and tender. She looked like she had been pampered. She had an air of nobility and gentleness that seemed to have never done any household chores. However, in the eyes of the Demon King, this fist was like a soul-reaping blow from the King of Hell. It looked at Luo Qingtong's punch in shock. It emitted a terrifying aura that caused the core of its soul to tremble violently. Its eyes were filled with shock. It had no time to dodge and was hit by Luo Qingtong's punch. Ah! The terrifying demon fiendish chi surrounding the Demon King instantly disappeared. Not only that, but the power and aura around its body also melted like snow in the winter. Boom! Ah! Its body trembled violently, and in the next second, Luo Qingtong's punch smashed it into pieces of flesh. The tyrannical fist of heaven and earth, dominating the world and destroying the 9 continents. When the Demon King's body disappeared, its eyes were still deeply imprinted with extreme fear. It wasn't because of the power of Luo Qingtong's punch, but because of the origin of her punch. It was actually the heaven and earth tyrant fist. That was the famous fist technique of the Supreme Being. The Demon King's heart was shaken to the extreme, and she was also filled with regret. If it had known that Luo Qingtong was related to the other party, it definitely wouldn't have allowed Ji Yuankun and his son to provoke the other party. No, it should have directly wrung their necks and delivered them to Luo Qingtong. The Demon King disappeared unwillingly. This time, it didn't have any room to escape. Chapter 30:27. From the brocade box on the table not far away, a series of popping sounds could be heard. The doppelganger that the Demon King had attached to the bracelet had all been destroyed. This was the power of the Heaven and Earth Tyrant Fist. Luo Qingtong's strength wasn't enough to inject power into the evil blood bracelet and activate it. But even without the evil blood bracelet, Luo Qingtong's current strength of the human martial arts realm was enough to annihilate people who were one realm higher than her. It was laughable that the Demon King had thought that he had succeeded. He had thought that he could rely on his temporary increase to the initial stage of the Earth martial arts realm to destroy Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She looked at the place where the Demon King's body had completely disappeared and her brows furrowed. She didn't know why, but she felt that the Demon King had looked at her with a strange gaze at the last moment. That gaze of deep reverence and fear didn't seem like the Demon King was looking at her. Could it be because of the Heaven and Earth Tyrant Fist? It recognized the Heaven and Earth Tyrant Fist? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she was somewhat annoyed that she had acted too quickly and hadn't been able to keep the Demon King alive. Otherwise, she would have been able to obtain some information about her previous life from it. That would have been a great gain. But forget it. If it was killed, then it was killed. Luo Qingtong had concealed her strength and used the final killing blow so that the Demon King wouldn't have any chance to escape. She didn't want to leave any trouble behind. Although she hadn't managed to get anything out of it, there would be opportunities in the future to ask about it from other places. It was better than leaving any trouble behind. Moreover, Luo Qingtong felt that if other people knew about her previous life, it wouldn't be a good thing. Not to mention other things, just the scene of the bloody city on the abandoned continent was enough to arouse her vigilance. It was good that the Demon King had died. Before she was strong enough, Luo Qingtong didn't want to come into contact with any information about her previous life. She didn't want other people to have the opportunity to find out about her. As Luo Qingtong thought this, she didn't feel so conflicted. She walked to the place where the Demon King's body had been destroyed. She saw a black pearl on the ground. Her brows instantly raised, she raised her hand and picked it up. Origin Soul Pearl, so that's what it is. The Demon King's avatar was hiding in the Origin Soul Pearl, taking advantage of the opportunity when Ji Yuankuan swallowed it to devour and possess it. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she looked at the brocade box not far away. She saw a few black beads lying in the brocade box. So many Origin Soul beads. That Devil King is really patient. Luo Qingtong of Luo Os, no wonder it had stayed in the family Ji for so many years and swallowed so much soul power and strength from Ji Yuankuan and Ji fighting, but it was only at the 9th level of the human martial realm. It turned out that he wanted to be a crafty rabbit with 3 burrows, leaving himself a way out, and at the same time, leaving a chance for him to devour and seize the body. Luo Qingtong shook her head as she thought. If the Demon King focused on increasing its strength, Luo Qingtong might not be able to defeat it. In the end, it dispersed its strength and was finally destroyed by Luo Qingtong. It really didn't know what to say. He had dug his own grave, and he had to finish kneeling. Chapter 30:28. She lifted her hand and put away the soul beads. These soul beads were important food for the heavenly spirit wood. With them, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have to worry about finding more strength for the heavenly spirit wood in the near future. Coming to the family Ji this time was really the right choice. Once she returned to the true Spill continent, she could begin to prepare for the connection to the world lands. At that time, the true Spill continent would be Luo Qingtong's private territory. No one would be able to do anything to it, nor would they be able to do anything to the people of the true Spill continent. Luo Qingtong would be able to sense the situation of the true Spill continent through the little dumpling. When the time came, she would directly abuse them. As Luo Qingtong thought this, she suddenly smiled. Then, she scanned the surroundings of the cave. When she saw the huge statue, her eyes flashed slightly. The Demon King was dead, and this statue looked exactly like him. Perhaps it could be of some use in the future. For example, it could be used to investigate the identity of the Demon King. Or perhaps it could be used to find some clues related to her past life. As Luo Qingtong thought this, she immediately stepped closer to the statue. She wanted to use the mechanism of the statue to shrink it and place it in her storage ring. She wasn't worried that there weren't any mechanisms on the statue. After all, Ji Yuankun wanted to quietly move this statue into his secret room. How could there not be any mechanisms? Luo Qingtong's eyesight was amazing. Whether or not this cave was newly built, or how long this statue had been here, she could roughly guess. Thus, she didn't hesitate to walk over. At the same time, she also released Little Pig and the gold-seeking hamster. She had them wander around and see if there were any other mechanisms or treasures. Since Luo Qingtong had come here, she naturally wouldn't leave the good things here to others after destroying the enemy. She wasn't that noble. Not to mention, the Demon King was a member of the demon race. Luo Qingtong was very interested in his collection and treasures. As Luo Qingtong approached the statue, found its mechanism, and shrank it. On the other side, Little Pig and the gold-seeking hamster were also wandering around and found many good things. There were indeed many treasures of the Demon King. Unfortunately, they were all items of the demon race. They had a dense energy and were of high quality. Unfortunately, most of them were damaged. But even so, they still exuded an extremely dark aura. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She didn't mind and kept all these things. These things might be useful in the future. What's more, other people were afraid of the corrosion of the devil Qi and Yin Qi, but Luo Qingtong held the life and death sword and didn't care at all. Once he repaired these treasures and got rid of the devil Qi and Yin Qi in them, wouldn't they be the best of the best? Not only that, Luo Qingtong could also use these things to trick people. As long as she left a bit of yin-yang qi in the core and didn't remove it, whoever got it would be unlucky. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up as she thought of this. Next to the Demon King's treasury, there were many treasures of Ji Yuankun. They were all first-rate treasures in the 8-star region. Luo Qingtong didn't hesitate to put them away. She would take them back for her grandfather and the others. Chapter 30-29. Oh my heavens! Devil subduing stone tablet. Little Pig stared at the stone tablet placed at the corner of the cave. His eyes widened in shock. Oh my heavens! Why would the devil subduing stone tablet of the near devil abyss appear here? No wonder the Demon King was able to escape here. It was because the devil subduing stone tablet was broken. However, he didn't know how much of the devil subduing stone tablet was broken. If all of it was broken, heh. While Little Pig was staring at the demon subduing stone tablet that was clearly a broken piece, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in front of him. Devil subduing stone tablet? She said as she looked at the millstone-sized fragment of the tablet. Is it because this thing is broken that the Demon King appeared in the Dongting region? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. Little Pig nodded and said, this thing is used to suppress the passage of the demon race. Strange, why would it break for no reason? However, those guys are going to be very busy now. As Little Pig said this, he immediately laughed in schadenfreude. Obviously, those guys did not refer to ordinary people. However, Luo Qingtong didn't ask any questions. She sensed the aura of this fragment of the devil subduing stone tablet. She felt that the aura of this fragment was vast and ancient, as if it was formed by the heavens. It was actually a bit different from the aura of the evil blood bracelet. She was astonished. Could it be that this small fragment of the devil subduing stone tablet was comparable to the evil blood bracelet? With this thought in mind, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and grabbed the fragment of the devil subduing stone tablet. At this time, Little Pig's movement was even faster than her. He happily rushed over and hugged the fragment of the devil subduing stone tablet. Then, he stuffed it into Luo Qingtong's hand and said, Master, quickly, bring this fragment of the devil subduing stone tablet back. This is a good thing. It is said that this is a divine stone that grows naturally. It contains all kinds of aura of the heavens and earth. It coexists with the heavens and earth, and is even closer to the origin than the origin. If I can fully comprehend the laws on this divine stone, I'll be able to unleash the strongest laws of the same level. Although Little Rice Ball's territory is awesome, compared to other territories of the sector beasts, it lacks the most important thing, which is the improvement of the laws. If you bring this stone tablet fragment into the world realm and plant it with the heavenly spirit wood, they will complement each other. When the sky spirit wood absorbs the power of the laws, the law leaves it can grow are the most powerful. That's not all. In the future, when the stone tablet fragments are repaired, the people inside will be able to comprehend the laws within. At that time, they'll be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. The increase in their strength will simply be too great. As Little Pig said this, his heart skipped a beat. Ever since it followed Luo Qingtong, it had gotten used to collecting wool everywhere. As long as it was something good, he would never let it go. Luo Qingtong chuckled when she saw his money grubber look. You still want to complete it? Without it, who knows what will happen to the demon race's passageway? As Luo Qingtong said this, she raised her hand and lightly knocked on Little Pig's head. Little Pig, on the other hand, chuckled. So what? It's already broken. Can't we take advantage of it? But when those guys go crazy, it's really troublesome. As he said this, he twisted his two thin little eyebrows and said, It's okay. When Master's strength increases, they'll be willing to take it even if they don't want to. In any case, the broken demon subduing stone tablet could no longer suppress them. On the contrary, Luo Qingtong's ability to restrain the demon race was the most precious. Luo Qingtong's strength was still not enough. Otherwise, Little Pig would have eagerly brought her back to show off. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded and didn't say anything else. After all, this was indeed a good thing for her. It was just that she didn't have the ability to achieve it for the time being, so she didn't think about it. After Luo Qingtong tidied up, she left the cave. Chapter 30:30. A group of people surrounded the family Ji. Then, a group of people rushed in through the door of the family Ji. Yuan Qinggang. What are you doing? The head of the family Nangong was furious. He and a group of family Nangong members stood guard at the edge of the family Ji's martial arts practice field, waiting for Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing to wake up. At this moment, the blood sacrifice had been completed. A group of family Ji members collapsed in the family Ji's martial arts practice field like dead fish. They were only left with one breath. Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing did not take their lives in the end, but these people's strength was all gone. Not only that, but more than half of their vitality and energy had been lost. At this moment, everyone looked completely sick and dispirited. Most of their hair had also turned white. At this moment, the head of the family Nangong and the others saw a group of family members led by the Yuan family rushing in. These people had suffered a lot under Ji Fighting and Ji Yuankuan's hands. After Ji Fighting's matter was exposed, they had more or less been tricked by the other party. At this moment, they gathered and rushed into the family Ji. They saw a group of family Ji members lying limp on the ground, and Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing sitting cross-legged on the ground, looking like they were seriously injured and recuperating. At that moment, a secret, covetous, greedy, and happy expression appeared on their faces. These family Ji members were all crippled. Not only that, they would probably never be able to recover their strength in this lifetime. In this way, wouldn't the entire family Ji become a huge empty shell that they could do whatever they wanted? As everyone thought this, their eyes instantly turned red with excitement, and even their breathing became heavy. Haha. Yuan Qinggang's voice was clear and bright. He looked at the furious head of the family Nangong and said with a happy expression, Head of the family Nangong, you don't have to be so nervous. We are here to seek justice from the family Ji. Don't you think so? He gave the other family Nangong leaders a look. The latter understood and immediately smiled brightly. That's right, family Nangong leader. You're not being kind. How could you not bring us along when you came looking for trouble with the family G? That's right. We also have a grudge against the family G. It's our duty to be their enemy. Family Nangong eating alone, isn't that too unsightly? The Nangong family head frowned when he heard the voices of the crowd. He looked at these people and suddenly understood. These people thought that he had destroyed the family G and wanted to monopolize the family G, so they all rushed over to get a share of the loot. They wanted to carve up the family G. With this thought in mind, the family Nangong leader said coldly, "You're wrong. We're here with Ji Feiyu and the others to subdue the family G. We're only targeting Ji Yuankun and the others. The family G has always belonged to Ji Feiyu and the others." Ha! When he said this, Yuan Qinggang and the others immediately sneered with disdain. Family Nangong leader, you family Nangong people are too good at talking nonsense. You're not targeting the family G. Then, what's up with all these people from the G family before you all? You've already crippled them, and you're still talking to us about this? Chapter 30-31. One of the family heads said with a fake smile, "If you family Nangong people want to use them as puppets so that you can monopolize the family G's property and resources, you should have said so earlier. However, you're not the only one who has a grudge against the family G. We won't just suffer in silence." That's right. As the saying goes, those who see it have a share. We were also cheated by Ji Yuankun and Ji fighting before. We must be compensated. Everyone was talking at once. Their goal was to get the family G's property and resources. They did not believe the words of the family Nangong's master at all. Who was he trying to lie to when he said that he was not targeting the family G? Could it be that the family G people who were scattered all over the place had crippled their own strength? They would never have thought that it was Ji Yuankun who activated the blood sacrifice array formation and sacrificed their group of people. In the end, it fell on Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's heads and allowed the two of them to benefit. The family Nangong's master could not announce this matter at this time for the safety of the two of them. He immediately said coldly, "Impossible. I've said that the family G belongs to Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing. None of you are allowed to touch it." He had received Luo Qingtong's orders to protect Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuanqing, and the others. This family G belonged to the two of them. Naturally, he had to protect it well. Otherwise, how could he face Luo Qingtong and explain it to her? When the crowd saw that he was stubbornly refusing to relent, their expressions immediately became gloomy and angry. "Family Nangong's master, are you mistaken?" Yuan Qinggang sneered. "The group of us came here to inform you of this matter, not to ask for your permission. We're really going to divide up this family G. If you have the ability, stop us. If you don't, get out of my way. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude to you." That's right. Naturally, they were not afraid of the leader of the family Nangong. After all, everyone knew that the family Nangong was powerful. They might not be able to fight against them alone. However, now that they had gathered together, they were much stronger than the family Nangong. Not to mention, the family Nangong's people were obviously injured when they fought against the family G's people. The family Nangong master still had wounds and bloodstains on his body. Under such circumstances, why should they be afraid of the other party? If there was a conflict, they might even destroy the family Nangong. Everyone thought so and looked at each other. The emotions in their eyes were unusually vicious. They were determined to get a share of the profits from the family G. They could not allow the family Nangong to mess things up or even let them monopolize the profits. Otherwise, the scale of the family Nangong's development in the future would be even more unstoppable in the Dongting region. Among them, the people who wanted the family Nangong to be unlucky the most were the people from the Yuan family. This was because their strength was slightly weaker than the family Nangong's people. For all these years, they had never been able to win against the family Nangong's people. It was not easy for them to gather a group of people and suppress the family Nangong's people. They could not wait to destroy the family Nangong's people. Therefore, they became more and more arrogant in their actions. Leader of the family Nangong, don't blame us for speaking rudely. An elder of the Yuan family laughed coldly and said, you can only blame the family Nangong's people for going too far. Everyone is the family Ji's creditor, but you insisted on monopolizing the profits. Of course, we can't tolerate it. The group of people spoke in a dignified manner, but they forgot that when the family Nangong and Ji Feiyu attacked the family Ji, they all knew about it, but no one helped. Chapter 30-32. Eat my ass. Eat by yourself. They didn't do anything at all. Could it be that they wanted a share of the benefits? Not to mention that the family Nangong had received Luo Qingtong's orders, it was impossible for them to do anything to the family Ji's people. Even if there was no such thing, he wouldn't let these people have their way. Therefore, without thinking, he directly led a group of family Nangong's people to block in front of them. Seeing this, Yuan Shingang and the others were furious. They couldn't be bothered with anything else and directly attacked the family Nangong's people. Nangong Fu, you asked for this. Open up all the family Nangong's people. As Yuan Shingang said this, he secretly instructed his trusted subordinates to find a good opportunity to kill the family Nangong's people. At that time, the family Nangong's people would be like a group of dragons without a leader. Their Yuan clan's people would take a step further and even swallow the family Nangong. As he thought this, he suddenly smiled with a sinister expression. Right at this moment, a faint voice that sounded like a smile that was not a smile sounded. Oh, it's so lively. What are all of you doing? Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She came out of Ji Yuankuan's room and saw this scene. She crossed her arms and leaned against the door of Ji Yuankuan's room, looking at the hostile scene in the martial arts arena. The family Nangong's people were stunned, then they hurriedly cried out in surprise. Miss Xiaoqi. The family Nangong's face was filled with surprise. He didn't expect Luo Qingtong to return so quickly. He thought that it would take some time for her to chase after Ji Yuankuan, but in the end, she returned in such a short time. As the family Nangong's people thought this, they were inexplicably shocked. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that Luo Qingtong was actually an expert at the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm. And she had directly increased her strength in the battle with Ji Yuankuan. The initial stage of the human martial arts realm. How old is Lady Xiaoqi? Most likely, even the direct disciples of the 6-star domain couldn't compare to her, not to mention her strength. She directly scared Ji Yuankuan, an expert close to the 6th level of the mortal martial realm, to the point that he covered his head and ran away like a rat. No matter how many times they thought about it, the head of the family Nangong and the others were still in disbelief. And now, the appearance of the young girl had given them a backbone. It wasn't that the family Nangong people weren't panicking. After all, they were far weaker than Yuan Shingang and the others. No one could guarantee that Yuan Shingang and the others would not suddenly have evil intentions and kill them along with Ji Feiyu and the others. Now that Luo Qingtong was back, it was great. They didn't know why, but when they saw Luo Qingtong's slim and tall figure, their hearts calmed down. It was an indescribable feeling. It was as if with her appearance, all the dangers were no longer dangers. When Luo Qingtong appeared, Yuan Shingang and the others were also shocked. Then, he frowned slightly and looked at Luo Qingtong. Lady Xiaoqi, this matter has nothing to do with you. Please step aside. Yuan Shinggang's words were very arrogant. In his heart, Luo Qingtong was still a young girl at the Sage Master realm. It was just that she had an expert at the initial stage of the mortal martial realm behind her. Although he wasn't afraid of her, he thought that she might have other identities behind her. Therefore, he spoke to Luo Qingtong respectfully and addressed her as Lady Xiaoqi. However, when he asked her to step aside, it was abnormally stiff and cold. Chapter 30-33. When he spoke, Luo Qingtong chuckled. Then she looked at him and said indifferently, "What if I don't step aside?" Luo Qingtong had already appeared in Ji Yuankuan's room when Yuan Shingang and the others appeared in the family Ji. She saw everything but did not say anything. She wanted to see what the family Nangong would choose. Obviously, the answer did not disappoint her. When Luo Qingtong spoke, Yuan Shinggang's face suddenly darkened. He looked at Luo Qingtong and said coldly, "Luo Xiaoqi, don't go too far. This is the Dongting region. It's not a place where you can do whatever you want. You only have one guard in the early stage of the human martial arts realm. He is not with you now. And I have more than one warrior in the early stage of the human martial arts realm with me. I advise you not to meddle in other people's business." If possible, Yuan Shingang naturally did not want to provoke Luo Qingtong. After all, everyone knew that the family Ji's downfall was entirely caused by Luo Qingtong. This mysterious girl directly pulled down Ji Yuankuan, Ji Fighting, and the others as soon as she came to the Dongting region. If it were not for her actions, they would probably still be fooled by Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting's methods. Therefore, Yuan Shingang was still somewhat afraid of Luo Qingtong. But that was all. He would never give in to the family Ji this time. Now the family Ji was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. If they did not do anything, the family Nangong would benefit. How could Yuan Shingang tolerate this? Therefore, even if he risked offending Luo Qingtong, he would take over the family Ji. As for if she wanted to make trouble for him. If the power behind the other party really allowed her to do whatever she wanted, then she wouldn't have just brought along a human martial realm initial stage guard. He could easily destroy the family Ji with a simple move. Why would he need the other party to do it himself? Perhaps the human martial realm guard beside her was just lucky and coincidentally met with some opportunity to advance. There was no power behind him at all. Thinking of this, Yuan Shinggang's tone became colder and harsher. It even carried a clear threat. "Oh, is that so? Then I'm really scared." Luo Qingtong smiled and looked at them. Then she tilted her head and said, "But what should we do? I've already promised Ji Feiyu that I will help them. Isn't it a bad idea to go back on your word?" Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Yuan Shinggang's face was full of contempt. He looked at Luo Qingtong. As expected, the other party did not have any confidence. It was also because Ji Yuankuan and the others were stupid. If they had directly killed the other party, there wouldn't be so much trouble. But fortunately, Ji Yuankuan and the others did not do so. Otherwise, how could he and the others have picked up such a big advantage today? Thinking of this, he suddenly felt very satisfied. He said to Luo Qingtong, "What's the big deal? Ji Feiyu, that trash. If it weren't for you, he wouldn't have been able to return to the family Ji. You've already helped him deal with Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting. That's already a great kindness. You don't need to continue helping them. Of course, Miss Xiaoqi, if you really have a conscience, I can promise you to spare their lives. But that's all." Chapter 30-34. Yuan Shingang said in a tone that sounded as if he was doing them a favor. In any case, Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing were recognized as trash and useless in the Dongting region. So what if he spared their lives? Could it be that they could flip the heavens? However, just as his voice fell, Luo Qingtong's voice became clearer and clearer as she laughed. She leaned forward and backward as she laughed, then raised her head to look behind him and said, "Did you hear that? Feiyu, uncle, the Yuan family head is really generous. You have to thank him properly." As soon as Luo Qingtong's words came out, Yuan Shinggang's face suddenly froze. Then, he suddenly turned his head and saw Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing slowly standing up from the ground. Boom! In an instant, extremely powerful strength lingered around the two of them. In just an instant, Yuan Shingang was speechless. Level 6 of the human martial realm? Just entered the human martial realm? He looked at Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing's strength in disbelief. Especially when he saw Ji Feiyu's level 6 human martial realm strength, he almost couldn't believe his eyes. If Ji Yuanqing's cultivation had been hindered for some reason these years, so he suddenly rose to the early stage of the human martial realm after accumulating enough strength, he could still understand. But what was with Ji Feiyu's level 6 human martial realm strength? How could his strength have risen to such a level? Wasn't he just a trash who couldn't cultivate? It was not just Yuan Qinggang. Even the patriarchs of the various clans behind him cried out in disbelief when they saw this scene. For so many years, Ji Feiyu had always lived in their eyes with the identity of a useless person. But at this moment, Yi Shuan's strength had risen to the 6th level of the human martial realm in an instant. It was simply too dazzling. What was going on? How was this possible? Many questions lingered in the minds of the crowd, but there was no answer to any of them. On the contrary, Yuan Qinggang looked at the collapsed family Ji people on the ground and a thought flashed through his mind. Then, he held his breath and said in disbelief, You guys actually used the evil method of blood sacrifice to transfer the family Ji people's strength into your bodies? As he said this, he had already figured it out in the blink of an eye. No wonder the family Ji people were lying on the ground dispiritedly. Could it be that Ji Yuanqing and Ji Feiyu were seriously injured and recuperating? In fact, they were simply increasing their strength and refining the strength of their bodies. And as he clamored in his heart that they had used evil methods, he wanted to call on everyone to resist them and kill them here. The family Nangong family head's proud voice rang out. That's right, you guessed right. It's the power of blood sacrifice. Unfortunately, it was Ji Yuankuan who used the evil method first, but it was broken by Miss Xiaoqi. Then, the power of the evil method was transferred to Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing, who had the same bloodline as him and were harmed by him. Yuan Qinggang, you didn't expect this, did you? Ji Feiyu and his father will turn this misfortune into a blessing. Not only have they recovered the strength they lost for so many years, but they have also broken through to the human martial realm. Chapter 30-35. The power of the 6th level of the human martial realm, oh my god. Miss Xiaoqi's move was really too powerful. The head of the family Nangong in Yuan Qinggang said that Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing had profited from a disaster and happened to obtain the power of the family Ji that Ji Yuankuan had sacrificed. In fact, he was very clear that this was most likely done by Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? Luo Qingtong asked Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing for 2 drops of blood and flicked it into the array. Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing had obtained the power of the blood sacrifice and also cut off the connection between Ji Yuankuan and the blood sacrifice array. Miss Xiaoqi's ability was really unpredictable. The head of the family Nangong thought so and his heart was filled with reverence. When Yuan Qinggang heard the head of the family Nangong's words, his heart was about to go crazy. He originally thought that if Luo Qingtong and Ji Yuanqing had used the evil method, he could expose this matter and let everyone chase after Luo Qingtong and Ji Yuanqing. This way, he could escape this disaster. He didn't expect that this evil method was actually done by Ji Yuankuan. That idiot. Using the evil method could benefit others, and it was even his mortal enemy who had benefited. Was he stupid enough to die? Yuan Qinggang's heart collapsed, but he still refused to give up. He looked at the head of the family Nangong and the others and said in a dying struggle, You are the ones who are talking, who knows if this is true or not? That's right. Who knew if this was true or not? Ji Yuankuan was already dead and there was no proof at all. At that time, as long as they insisted that it was Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing who used the evil method and the family Nangong people were accomplices, they could still easily deal with them. However, just as he was thinking this, he heard Ji Feiyu's cold voice ring out. There are hundreds of people in my family Ji. All of them are here. Anyone can check them. We won't feel guilty. As soon as the words left his mouth, Yuan Qinggang remembered that the hundreds of people who had been sacrificed to the family Ji were still alive. Instantly, his vision went black. This was like seeing a ghost. How could a person who had been sacrificed by an evil technique not die? Yet, the family Ji's people kept doing strange things again and again. As he thought of this, he immediately gritted his teeth and didn't dare to say another word. The hundreds of people in the family Ji who were still alive were the best witnesses. With them around, no one could touch Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuanqing, and the others at all. This was because Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing did not initiate the evil art. Instead, it was a blessing in disguise. This would not be punished by the world at all. As Yuan Xinggang thought of this, he suddenly felt very depressed in his heart, so much so that he almost couldn't breathe. At this moment, Ji Feiyu's cold voice rang out again. Since we've solved the problem of our strength, shouldn't we solve the problem between us now? Patriarch Yuan, you trespassed into our family Ji, insulted me and my father, and even attacked our benefactor. How are you going to explain this to us? Ji Feiyu's voice was cold. He clenched his fists, almost unable to control the anger that was about to explode in his body. The fact that Yuan Xinggang was about to attack him and the family Ji did not arouse his anger at all. However, the anger that filled his chest at this moment was all because of his threats to Luo Qingtong. He actually dared to threaten Luo Qingtong. Chapter 30-36. As Ji Feiyu thought about it, the anger in his heart instantly reached its peak. Previously, he was unable to move at all during his cultivation. He could only listen to Yuan Xinggang's threats to Luo Qingtong. Even though he knew that with Luo Qingtong's strength, she would never be threatened by him. But he was still enraged by Yuan Xinggang's disdain and arrogance towards Luo Qingtong, as well as his threats. Boom! The strength around him exploded in an instant. The power that entered his body through the blood sacrifice array had completely become a part of his body. Ji Feiyu had never been as happy as he was at this moment that his talent was much stronger than others. Because of this, the aura of power he received and the improvement of his strength far exceeded that of ordinary people. It allowed him to possess such tyrannical strength in such a short period of time. It allowed him to have a little bit of qualification to stand beside Luo Qingtong. But the person in front of him was reckless and dared to threaten Luo Qingtong. Who was he? How dare he threaten her? Ji Feiyu's face was gloomy and malicious. For the first time, he, who was kind and gentle by nature, could not control his hostility and killing intent from the bottom of his heart. The way he looked at Yuan Xinggang was like that of a hungry wolf. His gaze made Yuan Xinggang's heart skip a beat. He could not help but say, No, we just want to seek justice from the family Ji. Don't you think so? As he spoke, he swallowed his saliva and looked at the people from the other families behind him. When the latter and the others heard his words, they immediately nodded and said yes. Ji Feiyu's current strength was not something they could afford to offend. The strength of LV6 of the human martial realm was considered a relatively strong warrior in the 6-star region. He was highly regarded by the major families. How old was Ji Feiyu at this time? Such strength was far more powerful than the direct descendants of the major families in the 6-star region. As the crowd thought so, they immediately wiped their cold sweat and felt very regretful. If they had known that Ji Feiyu would have such an opportunity, they would not have come to the family Ji even if they were beaten to death. It was really a mistake that caused everlasting sorrow. Everyone's foreheads were covered in cold sweat. Ji Feiyu looked at them with a cold smile and said softly, "Seek justice from the family Ji?" His eyes were slightly lowered. The silhouette of his beautiful eyelashes was like a butterfly's wings gently against his eyelids. As he sneered, they trembled gently. What does the family Ji owe you? The ones who owe you an explanation are clearly Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting. When they were here, why didn't you come to seek justice? Just say a few words and that's it. Now that they're gone, you're here to demand justice in such an aggressive manner, Yi Zichen said. Do I look like a scapegoat? Or do you think that I'm easier to bully than them and deliberately came to make things difficult for me? Yuan Xinggang and the others did not know what to say when they heard Ji Feiyu's words. They had originally thought that by using the excuse of seeking justice, Ji Feiyu and the others would not be able to do anything to them. After all, they had a good reason to do so. However, when they heard Ji Feiyu's question, they had a faint feeling that something was wrong. Indeed, Ji Yuankun and Ji Fighting owed them justice. Not the family Ji and Ji Feiyu. Chapter 30-37. However, at this moment, they were facing Ji Feiyu, whose strength and aura were completely overwhelming. It was so overwhelming that they found it difficult to even get close to him. They didn't dare to utter a single word. However, if they didn't say anything, it was equivalent to tacitly agreeing to let Ji Feiyu take the blame. They were deliberately humiliating him and wanted to deal with him. It was true that if they went forward, they would die. If they went back, they would die too. Only then did the people from the various clans realize what kind of situation they had dug their own graves into. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they had dug their own graves. Their foreheads were dripping with sweat. As for Yuan Qinggang, his legs were shaking and he couldn't stand steadily. He looked at Ji Feiyu, who had a cold expression and didn't look gentle or kind at all. He regretted it more than once in his heart. What kind of terrifying demon had he awakened? The feeling that Ji Feiyu gave him right now was even more terrifying than the Wolf King that he had encountered when he was on the brink of death. His heart couldn't help but tremble. His mouth opened and closed, but he couldn't say anything. At this moment, Ji Feiyu's expression was indifferent as he said to them, "Since you can't say anything, I'll say it." His gaze was sharp as he said coldly, "I'll give you two choices now. Cripple your own strength or cripple your own limbs. If you crawl out of here, I'll let bygones be bygones. In addition, all of your family's assets will be handed over. They will belong to my family Ji. I won't say this a second time." Before he could finish his sentence, Yuan Qinggang was already panting violently and shouting at him, "No. No. Ji Feiyu, don't go too far." He was almost hysterical as he shouted at Ji Feiyu. Cripple their own strength or cripple their own limbs to crawl out of here and hand over all of their family's assets. What was the difference between that and letting them die? Before Yuan Qinggang came to the family Ji, he never thought that he would end up like this. The patriarchs of the other families were also crying and begging fiercely. They didn't want to lose their patriarch position at all. If they had known that they would end up like this after coming to the family Ji, they would never have come even if they were beaten to death. But at this moment, there was no medicine for regret. They could only regret endlessly. While they were crying and begging for mercy, Ji Feiyu chuckled. Then, he looked at them and said coldly, "If you were standing here today, I wouldn't even have the chance to live, right? You don't have to choose. I will slowly send you on your way later. Especially you, Patriarch Yuan." Yuan Qinggang's expression froze the moment his words left his mouth. He understood that when Ji Feiyu said that he would, slowly, send them on their way, he didn't just mean it literally. He would definitely suffer endless torment and pain before he would stop. No, he could not let himself fall into that kind of situation. As Yuan Qing thought about it, he clenched his teeth and said with a trembling voice, I choose." In the end, he chose to cripple his own limbs. Because compared to crippling his own strength, crippling his own limbs was child's play. It was just a little embarrassing to crawl out of here with his head down. But as long as he still had his strength, he would always be able to make a comeback in the future. At that time, he would make Ji Feiyu and Luo Xiaoqi suffer a fate worse than death and die without a burial place. Yuan Qinggang gritted his teeth and crippled his own limbs. Together with the other patriarchs who had made the same choice as him, they endured the pain and crawled out of the family Ji. Chapter 30-38. These words drifted into his ears, instantly causing him to let out an incomparably shrill scream. Ah! Ah! Yuan Qinggang's heart collapsed. Those words were given to him by Ji Feiyu. The other party didn't say anything else. He only told him that his broken limbs would never be reattached. Not only that, when his limbs were broken, the meridians connected to his limbs were also broken. In other words, even if his strength wasn't crippled, it was completely useless. It wasn't just him. Even the family heads who made the same choice as him were treated the same way. They had lost their strength and their limbs were crippled. They were worse than cripples. Ji Feiyu said indifferently towards the end, "So, who are you calling a cripple? Who are you telling not to meddle in other people's business? Since you are so proud of your strength, then you can live in the shadow of being powerless and crippled for the rest of your life. I believe that those family heads who have suffered the same fate will treat you well." Ji Feiyu's voice was cold. When necessary, his heart was as cold as anyone else's. Yuan Shingang shouldn't have threatened Luo Qingtong. Since he had done so, Ji Feiyu would let him know what would happen to him. When Yuan Shingang heard this, the sadness and despair on his face deepened. No one understood the meaning of Ji Feiyu's words better than him. This time, he was the one who pulled the strings to cause trouble in the family Ji. If it weren't for the Yuan family, whose strength was second only to the family Nangong, those families who also had a grudge against Ji Yuankun might not have dared to come and rob the family Nangong. And now, because of his decision and conjecture, those family heads had their strength and limbs crippled along with him. How would they treat him? Yuan Shingang couldn't believe it. He looked at the half of Ji Feiyu's face that was hidden in the shadows of the Ji family. His face was as elegant as an immortal's, and he almost didn't dare to believe that those cold and ruthless words just now came from his mouth. Who said that Ji Feiyu's temperament was kind and gentle? This was simply a wolf hiding itself as a lamb. He stared at Ji Feiyu in shock. Just as he was about to shout at Ji Feiyu for being so vicious, Ji Feiyu raised his hand and gestured for the other members of the Yuan family to drag him away with his mouth gagged. Ji Feiyu wasn't afraid that he would say what he had done. He just didn't want his disgusting and shrill voice to dirty Luo Qingtong's ears. The people from the Yuan clan didn't dare to disobey Ji Feiyu. His current strength was at the 6th level of the human martial realm, which was enough to dominate the entire Dongting region. To put it bluntly, the strength of the patriarch of one of the top families in the 7-star field was only a so-so. Therefore, after panicking for a while, they suddenly rejoiced at the current situation. On the surface, the Yuan family was the same as the other families. They had been swallowed up by Ji Feiyu and the others. But in reality, they had changed their master, and they had become a first-class large family. Since then, in the entire Dongting region, except for the family Ji, who else could compare to them? They had lost their status as members of the Yuan family, but they had gained a more powerful identity. At that moment, they no longer resisted the idea of being swallowed up by Ji Feiyu. There were even some smart ones who thought that since Ji Feiyu had annexed so many clans, he couldn't possibly manage them himself. Chapter 30-39. In this way, their status in the Yuan family would not change. As long as they were loyal to Ji Feiyu, they could even advance further in the Yuan family because of Yuan Shinggang's downfall. With this thought in mind, everyone rushed to Yuan Shingang and carried out Ji Feiyu's order. They raised their hands and dragged Yuan Shingang away. Yuan Shinggang's mouth was gagged and his limbs were crippled. He could not resist at all and was dragged away by them. When he was dragged on the ground by his own family members like a dead dog, Yuan Shingang finally knew what it meant to be too late for regrets. When his body was dragged away, Ji Feiyu lowered his eyes and walked to Luo Qingtong's side. He raised his hand and handed the medicinal liquid that he had asked Luo Qingtong to give to him through telepathy. "Little 7, thank you for letting me vent my anger." He looked up at Luo Qingtong and did not mention a word about his viciousness. He only wanted to vent his anger on behalf of Luo Qingtong. The young girl's expression was indifferent. She just looked at him and smiled lightly. She did not take the medicinal bottle in his hand. "No need. You can keep it. This move of killing the chicken to warn the monkey is very good. You don't have to worry about others going against you in the future." Luo Qingtong looked at Ji Feiyu with a smile. Previously, she was afraid that Ji Feiyu's thoughts were too pure and kind. She was afraid that he would not be able to deal a heavy blow to Yuan Shingang and the others. After all, Yuan Shingang and the others were prepared to deal with Ji Feiyu and the head of the family Nangong. This kind of deadly hatred could only be used as a warning and could not be easily let go. Otherwise, once people found out that Ji Feiyu was strong but pure and kind, who knew how many reckless people would immediately bully him and even think of ways to make use of him. Luo Qingtong sent Buddha to the west. She originally thought that if Ji Feiyu could not bear to do it, she would secretly help him get rid of them. Anyway, Yuan Shingang didn't know what was good for him. He even threatened her just now. It was a good time to take revenge. In the end, just as she was thinking this, she saw Ji Feiyu finish him off. And it was done beautifully. It seemed that although the other party's heart was pure and kind, he was not a good person. That's right. Previously, when Qin Xiong and the others wanted to kill her, they were blocked by Ji Feiyu's ruthless methods. Luo Qingtong chuckled as she thought of this. She was completely relieved. She didn't want to help Ji Feiyu get his family Ji back, only to see him lose it again. He knew how to be ruthless, benevolent, righteous, and gentle. It was better than the usual high-pressure policy. It seemed that it wouldn't be long before the Dongting region would be completely under his control. Ji Feiyu's gaze was deep. He looked at Luo Qingtong and didn't say anything. He just put the bottle of liquid medicine into his pocket. No one knew that Ji Feiyu didn't intend to have a family Ji in the beginning. He had purposely spared the lives of the hundreds of people in the Ji family. It wasn't because he was benevolent, but because he didn't want Luo Qingtong to be implicated by Ji Yuankuan's evil methods. At the same time, it was also to let the remaining people in the family Ji feel powerless after losing their strength. Ji Feiyu would leave the family Ji to them and then watch them struggle because they were powerless to protect the family Ji. At that time, what would happen to the family Ji, whether it would be swallowed up by the family Nangong or divided up by others, would have nothing to do with him. Chapter 30-40. Ji Feiyu thought about how arrogant Yuan Shingang and the others were when they threatened Luo Qingtong. The gentle light in his eyes froze into ice. At this moment, he didn't just want power. He also wanted influence. He wanted to make the other party regret. If Luo Qingtong encountered such a situation again, he would still be able to help prevent her anger. Level 6 of the human martial realm wasn't considered strong. Even the Lu family might have such a strong person. Ji Feiyu wanted to be able to stand in front of Luo Qingtong and fight for her even when they were out of the Dongting region, or even in the 7-star field, 6-star field, or even higher star fields. Therefore, he chose to take over the family Ji's influence. Not only that, he also gathered the influence of the Yuan family and the other families who came to cause trouble. If he couldn't be number one in terms of strength, then he couldn't be inferior in terms of influence. Ji Feiyu had once yearned for a free and easy life. He had once thought that if he could cultivate one day and his body wasn't so weak, then he would travel the world and travel the world. But this time, he didn't want to. Because there was something he wanted to do more. That was to stand by Luo Qingtong's side. When she might encounter trouble in the future, he would be able to help her get rid of all the obstacles. Although she didn't necessarily need his help, he still wanted to do something for her. This matter had nothing to do with anything else. He wouldn't let her know his feelings. He just wanted to do this for her. While Ji Feiyu was lost in thought, Luo Qingtong was already preparing to leave. She had already achieved her goal of coming to the family Ji. Not only had the heavenly spirit with seed absorbed enough demon origin chi, but it would soon sprout. She had also obtained a lot of good things from the Een Demon King's lair. The Een Demon King's origin spirit beads were enough for her not to worry about the growth of the heavenly spirit wood in the short term. Suddenly, Luo Qingtong's heart skipped a beat. She suddenly remembered the 2 evil blood bracelets in her hands. She wondered if the origin soul orbs of the Een Demon King could replace her power to drive the 2 evil blood bracelets. Luo Qingtong remembered that the 2 evil blood bracelets were silent because they didn't have enough energy. At this moment, the origin soul pearl in her hand was the origin energy that had been separated from the Een Demon King. If the Een Demon King had been powerful enough when he was alive, the power of these origin soul pearls might have been able to replenish some of the evil blood bracelet's power. At that time, she would have another trump card to use. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she instantly became excited. He couldn't wait to rush back to experiment. She said goodbye to Ji Feiyu and immediately returned to the family Ji residence. Ji Feiyu still had a lot of things to deal with. Not only did he have to deal with the mess in the family Ji residence, but he also had to deal with the Yuan family and the other families that had come to cause trouble. He still had to organize and deal with them. Therefore, he didn't send Luo Qingtong off. He was someone who would do whatever it took to accomplish something once he made up his mind. Right now, he was preparing to make the Dongting region his own. Therefore, he had a lot of things to do. Luo Qingtong also didn't need him to send her off. She quickly returned to the family Ji residence. She asked Yan Nyang and Chu Tianyi to guard her courtyard and prevent anyone from trespassing. Then, she went back to her room. Chapter 30-41. Luo Qingtong stepped out of her room with a look of pleasant surprise. Huh, Yan Nyang, let's go. Let's go back. Luo Qingtong's eyes sparkled. She looked at the evil blood bracelet on her wrist, which already had a beautiful luster. She was very happy. Her previous idea was indeed feasible. The Yin Demon King's demonic origin energy could indeed be absorbed by the evil blood bracelet. It was just that the efficiency of this kind of absorption wasn't particularly high. She didn't know whether it was because the Yin Demon King's energy wasn't pure enough or because the evil blood bracelet was damaged. However, it was already very good to be able to absorb this much energy. Luo Qingtong estimated that by relying on the energy absorbed from the origin soul pearls, Luo Qingtong could temporarily use the evil blood bracelet once. Of course, the power it could display naturally couldn't be compared to the evil blood bracelet's power. However, ordinary Sky Martial Realm experts were enough for Luo Qingtong to kill in an instant. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up as she thought of this. She still had 2 or 3 of the Yin Demon King's origin soul pearls in her hand. These were prepared for the heavenly spiritual wood. In any case, a single origin soul pearl couldn't provide more energy to the evil blood bracelet. It wasn't enough to use the evil blood bracelet a second time. Therefore, Luo Qingtong didn't waste it and left it for the heavenly spiritual wood as food. However, after this, Luo Qingtong had a strong interest in the demon race. One Yin Demon King's origin soul pearl gave the evil blood bracelet a chance to use it. Then if she could kill a few more demon race people, Luo Qingtong thought of this and suddenly felt an indescribable excitement in her heart. Unfortunately, the place where the demon race people were was clearly not a place she could casually go to. Luo Qingtong was able to kill the Yin Demon King by luck. The other party was in a soul state. Moreover, in order to escape the suppression of the demon-suppressing stone tablet, he had suffered heavy injuries. Under such circumstances, she was able to successfully kill the other party. If it was a complete demon, her current strength would not be enough. However, the devil-suppressing stone tablet had already shattered. Perhaps there were other devil clansmen that had escaped to the star field. Luo Qingtong thought so and decided to pay attention to some strange things in the future. Especially in a situation like Ji Feiyu's, she had to uphold the tradition of saving the world and resolutely treat him. Who knows, she might be able to get another demon's soul to replenish the evil blood bracelet. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly smiled. When Yan Nyang heard her order, she immediately went to prepare to leave. Chu Tianyi followed behind her with a gloomy expression. This time, he originally wanted to guard Luo Qingtong's door alone and let Yan Nyang rest. In the end, Yan Nyang could not understand his considerate actions and insisted on waiting in front of Luo Qingtong's door. Chu Tianyi's heart was tangled. He felt that he did not even have 1% of Luo Qingtong's status. However, who asked him to not know about the existence of Yan Nyang and Chu Lingfeng before and almost let them die? Under such circumstances, they would naturally be closer to Luo Qingtong and not him. Chu Tianyi thought so and felt even more gloomy. At the same time, He gnashed his teeth and swore to himself that after he coaxed Yan Yang and returned to the heavenly wind region, he would definitely make Bai Xing and the others pay the price. While he was gnashing his teeth, in the Star Wilderness region, you're tuning into the A Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.